it's just conversations we've never even had, and we've worked together for so many years. But like, what was the moment y'all became the Neptunes versus just like you start off going to school together?
We were always the Neptunes, even as a group.
In school?
Yeah.
In school?
Yeah. We attended school, like a little summer program for the Summer of the Arts, and we wasn't really conforming to any of their rules. You know, doing this type of thing, and it's like vibes, man.
Yeah.
What instruments were you guys playing back then when you started like figuring out that you could play together?
Well, Chad was always playing keys and all the other instruments until I learned like how to play bass lines. At that point, I was only doing like drums and like bass lines, and then eventually like I learned to play.
And at what point did you say, I'm gonna start actually being vocals on this, or writing ideas that were songs as opposed to just playing music?
They were only references. I know Shake Your Ass was a reference. I really wanted to get the Temptations, and they thought I was bugging. They were like, why would you do that? And it's like, because those are the guys with the sound. So they were like, no, we're just gonna use your vocal. And I was like, I think I was excited, but it was still weird for me because as an Aries in my brain, it's like I see things the way I feel like they're supposed to be. So I put up these walls and thought, nah, I'm not going to put no melody on anything.
Is that what snowballed it?
So I was uncomfortable. Huh?
Like you doing hooks, did that snowball it?
Yeah, because people kept saying, nah, we're going to keep you on. And then, you know how things are. It's like, it's like, nah, we want one of them joints, so we want you on it. They don't realize it was a mistake. I mean, in my eyes, now that I look back, I realize it was a
beautiful accident.
It was these were things that were supposed to happen.
Because the truth is, those records wouldn't be the same if you got. The Temptations are the Temptations, but that record wouldn't be the same if the Temptations sang it.
Yeah.
What was y'all? This for all three of y'all. What's y'all favorite? Not only moment, but favorite song that came out from the Justified sessions?
That came out, or that was on the album?
That was in general, because I know it's songs that didn't come out too. Like, what was y'all favorite thing to make during that?
I was just walking that day.
Oh, Nothing Else.
Yeah.
Last Night was a good one. For personal reasons,
Yeah.
Last Night was a good one. Let's Take a Ride. Yeah. Which we were just talking about before we walked in here.
That whole song is a bridge. That shit's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bridge that goes into a bridge that goes into a bridge.
Yeah, I don't know where to come up with this.
Yeah. I just like the funny thing is like literally the first day of recording, I remember walking in and we were like, what are we gonna do? And you were like, hey, Chad was like, had an acoustic. You were like, listen to what? And Chad was just, and I was like, just that whole, and I was like, this just sounds like nothing I've heard. It reminds me of the feeling I get from certain things that I love, and that moment was so much of a confirmation for me because Pharrell and I had conversations before that point because we had worked on one NSYNC song we had called Girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. All three of us.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember feeling like I was like, I have to do my own record and I have to go solo. And I don't know that I was so vocal about that at the time because it wasn't as a conscious of an idea. But I remember feeling like when I heard that, I just knew that, because we had scheduled probably a month of recording.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew that, when I walked in and heard, when I heard that, I was like, it was the confirmation that everything, that these two guys were the answer to everything that I wanted to do. It was probably.
And what did you guys see? What did you guys see in him that you knew that he could do it, like to the place where he's done it?
Personally, I didn't know how big it was ever gonna be. I just thought this is gonna be fun because this guy can do it. And I felt like he just had the right taste. And I felt like the conditions in life and in music were just perfect. It was like the perfect
storm.
Yeah, it's like perfect conditions.
It was
for
the
like,
moment for sure.
For the precipitation to happen. Like all the humidity was like everything was right.
I agree with him. I didn't exactly know what it meant for my career, but there was never a moment of anything that we did where I went, I wonder if I like this. It was never a question in my mind. It was all these conversations, and then, actually, knowing that they were pieces of songs that were created, for like the biggest person ever in the history of ever. And I just knew once we started having conversations about those pieces of those songs, and we were able to talk about, just life, and then we started writing the other pieces to those songs. I was like, no, there's no way these could be anything else but mine.
Right.
I don't know who Chad would say was his influence in slamming those elements together, but for me it was like Q-Tip and Tribe. Like,
Q-Tip, Tribe Called Quest.
It's so crazy how much he loves Q-Tip. Like,
because
it's crazy.
Almost as much as you love him.
No, probably not as much.
Yo, think about it. You can listen to Bonita
over
anywhere, anywhere outside, anywhere on any kind of terrain, and it will still feel ill. You could be in a rainforest, and that record come on, and you'd be like, "Wow, I love my life." You could be at the top of a mountain. You could be in beautiful blue water in the ocean. Like anywhere outside, any Nat Geo pictures just work well with that song.
Did you guys ever get to spend time with Fife?
Not as much. I wasn't as close. But I know what that's like, man. That was everything to Tip, And the funny thing is, like, we were such Tribe fans when I was working with Magoo and Tim and Larry Live. It's like Magoo kind of sounded like Tip, and I kind of sounded like Fife. And Tip was my favorite. He's my favorite MC and producer, but I sounded like Fife, and I was so happy to be like anything that sounded anywhere near him. I sounded terrible, but in my mind at that time, you couldn't tell me anything just because of what Tribe represented to me. Like that was the birth of my personal interests. I don't know what made you like fusing the harder sound with the beautiful chords. With your beautiful chords.
The thing that did it for me for Tribe Called Quest was their music, their love for jazz. It shows that their appreciation for jazz. It was like, it's just a cool vibe.
Remember that one room studio y'all had? What was it called?
Master Sound.
And it was like, it had like a tin roof or something, so every time it rained,
right, you could hear it.
We had to stop recording and wait for the rain to pass.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, these dudes have, like, they just had like 3 number ones in a row with like Hot in Here and the J record, and I was like, it just seemed like, because of where I'm originally from, like where I feel like I grew up, it just seemed so cool to me that they had all these records that were like the hugest records at the time, and they were like working in the studio in Virginia because there was a feeling there that they had already captured. But I remember, like, you would start a groove and we would start mumbling melodies, and then we'd come up with something, and then it would get to where it was, and you would be like, Chad! And like Chad would walk in, it's like, we need a bridge, and Chad would be like, flee, 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 flee. And I would just look at Pharrell like,
yeah, he just comes right in.
That's how I was the other day. I got the chance to watch you guys work for like 30 minutes or whatever. It was just crazy. Like, it'd be a beat playing, he'll literally just start mumbling melody or whatever. He'll literally walk in, see him mumbling the melody, start mumbling it too. Then they start staying in the same pocket, but will veer off trying to find other ideas. And then literally 8 minutes later, they'll come together and start mumbling in each other's faces, and then start filling in words, and then literally 25 minutes later they have something, and then it's crazy. But the collaborative, like,
Thank you, man.
on the same train. It was awesome.
That means a lot, man.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
And is it the same way that it was with, like, the first time you guys were working together as it is now, or do you have all these other experiences that you're bringing into it that has changed the dynamic a little bit?
For me, like, there was like, I felt like both of them were like big brothers to me, you know, in a lot of ways, and I still feel that way, obviously. So there's still that familiarity, but I'm 35 now and have lived some life, and I also feel like there's a threshold you cross at a certain age where you're able to. I just feel like my whole 20s I was like forward, and I'm sure a lot of men can say this too. You get to a certain age, I think, where you're able to still feel like you want to move forward, but you are able to look in the rearview mirror and go, okay, what did I do that I could have done better, and you know, because those are the moments you really learn about things. So I think that there's a different air around it, and I don't know how it's gonna end up, but I know I'm feeling crazy right now.